Volkswagen's much improved 6th generation Jetta has got smarter and cleverer, offering customers a different alternative to the Golf hatch. With this saloon, you get a huge boot and rear passenger space almost able to rival the larger, pricier Passat. Whether European buyers like it won't matter too much to the German brand because there are plenty of other markets that will. Let's find out why.
Volkswagen's Jetta. It's a Golf with a boot, isn't it? Well, yes and no. In recent years, the Wolfsburg brand has sought to give this car more of its own identity, a trend that continues with this updated version of the much improved 6th generation model. As before, it sells to people who can't quite stretch to either Volkswagen's larger Passat saloon or a BMW 3 Series or Audi A4 size compact executive sedan. And, as before, it'll be a relatively rare sight on our roads. Most buyers here in search of a car of this size would rather have the hatchback versatility of a Golf. Now, American and Mediterranean customers see things differently though, and these markets have combined to make this one of the world's most popular saloon models, with over 14 million units having been sold since the very first Jetta was launched back in 1979. The US in particular has been a happy hunting ground for Volkswagen, this car having long been the brand's most popular stateside model. American buyers still snap up over 110,000 Jettas every year, with college kids attracted by endorsement from singers like Katy Perry and cheap pricing made possible by the close proximity of this car's Mexican assembly plant. Now, in order to sell the same design for nearly twice as much money in Europe, Volkswagen plushes up those cars heading across the Atlantic. These models also including the Golf's more sophisticated multi-link rear suspension, plus electric power steering, a better quality cabin and subtle styling changes. This would have been a very clever and very profitable strategy if it had worked, but sales of the early version of this 6th generation model were slow from its original launch here in 2011. Hence the need for the significantly revised version that we're going to look at here, with its smarter looks, upgraded cabin, extra safety features and revised engine range. Volkswagen hopes all of this will be enough to get this Jetta's core values noticed. That's its refinement, its long-distance comfort, and the fact that nothing in the class can offer anything like as much luggage space. Let's put this car to the test. Your Volkswagen salesperson will probably pitch this car to you as being one offering the best bits of both a smaller Golf and a larger Passat in one well-priced package. Now, the pricing bit we'll come on to later, but as far as the rest of that proposition goes, it's not actually too far from the mark. At the wheel, you're stationed in a driving position that offers the clarity and ease of use of a Golf and much of the comfort of a Passat, with both of these attributes also carried forward into the road-going experience that's on offer. So, while you not be thrilled by the way this car responds to your every move, you may at the same time be quietly impressed by the ease in which it can smoothly but quickly be threaded down a twisty road, and that's thanks to excellent grip and nicely weighted steering. But of course, the Fleetmeisters who'll be accounting for the lion's share of Volkswagen's modest predicted sales volume on these shores will be racking up most of their mileage on motorways. And that's one reason why the German engineers have tried especially hard with the ride and refinement of this car, the aim being to make owners feel that they're in something much bigger and more expensive. Now, the ride's certainly fit for purpose. One of the key things that differentiates European spec Jettas from US market ones is that for our market, a more compliant multi-link rear suspension is fitted. It seems a pity to spoil it by opting for the top GT model with its stiffened lowered sport springs. Refinement's good too. Cruise at 50 miles per hour in a 2-litre TDI diesel model like this one, and the noise levels are actually only a couple of decibels louder than they would be in something like a Bentley Continental. Now, this 150 PS unit I'm trying here is as willing and flexible as Volkswagen TDI units always are. Forget the 8.9 seconds 0 to 62 mile per hour time. What's important is the prodigious 340 newton meters of torque that's always ready to help you blast past slow-moving traffic. You'll miss this if you opt for the feebler diesel model, which gets a detuned version of the same 2-litre TDI diesel, developing 110 PS and offering just 250 newton meters of torque. The lesser diesel gets a different manual gearbox too, with 5 rather than 6 speeds. You'll certainly need to be slick with it to match this variant's quoted rest to 62 mile per hour sprint time of 11 seconds. This 2-litre TDI power plant is one of Volkswagen's longest serving engines, something evidenced by the fact that ticking the box for the auto gearbox option gives you the older, less efficient 6-speed version of the company's DSG twin-clutch transmission. You get more modern DSG technology if, with a Jetta, you want an automatic gearbox allied with petrol power. Buyers get a choice between 2 green pump fueled models, and both are propelled by the brand's familiar 1.4-litre TSI unit, developing either 125 or 150 PS. It's the 150 PS variant that gets the automatic option. This a 7-speed DSG unit that actually makes the car slightly cleaner and more frugal than it would be with manual transmission. There's no impact on performance either. In either 6-speed manual or 7-speed DSG auto form, a Jetta 1.4 TSI 150 PS variant will make 62 miles per hour from rest in 8.6 seconds en route to 137 miles per hour. But if you're happy to content yourself with the manual-only 125 PS 1.4 TSI variant, then those figures will fall to 9.6 seconds and 128 miles per hour. The original version of this 6th generation model had a key objective to meet right from the outset. From the start, stylist Klaus Bischoff and the design team were determined that it should be more than just a Golf with a boot. That's why this 4-door model is over 400 millimeters longer than its hatchback counterpart. Its 4.6 metre total length actually bringing it to within around 100 millimetres of a Passat saloon from the next class up. It's also why, as before, this car shares not a single panel with its hatchback stablemate. Less welcome, perhaps, is the news that this Jetta doesn't share any Golf underpinnings either. The Volkswagen Group's latest modern MQB platform hasn't made it into this car yet, so it remains designed around the same elderly Golf Mark V platform that it was based on before. Now, to try and compensate, Volkswagen has given this revised 6th generation version a light visual refresh that aims to give a bit more purpose to the design's clean, cohesive, but not especially memorable look. It's pretty subtle though. At the front you get a revised radiator grille with 3 horizontal fins, plus a re-profiled bumper, LED daytime running lights and revised air intakes. In profile, you might even mistake this car for a Passat. Viewed from the side, this 6th generation design's extra length is more obvious, emphasised by this sharp so-called tornado line that cuts through the large side surfaces in an attempt to offer a strong dynamic appearance. Now, these smarter wheels also supply a touch of upmarket class. At the back, there are sleeker taillights, a revised bumper, and thanks to the long overhang, the same very large boot. It's one of this car's biggest selling points, as you realise upon flipping the trunk lid, something you can do with just the press of a button on the key fob. The 510-litre area revealed is massive, around 30%, or to be more specific, 130 litres more than you'd get in a Golf. Theoretically, the much bigger Volkswagen Passat saloon I mentioned has a trunk that's only 76 litres larger than this. Compact saloon rivals from other brands that are similarly sized to this Jetta can offer nothing like as much boot space. An Audi A3 saloon delivers 425 litres, a Mazda 3 Fastback manages only 419 litres, and a Volvo S60 just 380 litres. If you need more room in this Volkswagen, you can push forward the rear bench, though that'll only be possible in a split folding fashion if you've avoided entry-level trim. Now, most models get a ski hatch for longer items, but whatever Jetta you're trying, once the backrest is flattened, there's enough capacity for all kinds of unlikely loads to be carried. So, your luggage will have more space to move around than it would in a Golf, and your rear seat passengers will enjoy these same benefits. This car has a substantially longer wheelbase than its hatchback counterpart. And that's something you especially notice here in the back, where there's ample headspace and more legroom for rear seat passengers than you'd expect a compact saloon to be able to provide. Two burly adults who wouldn't really relish a lengthy trip in the back of a Golf will be significantly better served here, with pretty much the same kind of space that a larger Mondeo or Passat class car used to offer until just a few years ago. The provision of rear air vents is also quite unusual in this class of car. And up front, well, it's a Volkswagen, isn't it? So as ever, the overall look and feel speaks of quality. With cabin detail and fit and finish, though, we come to another area where you might wish that this car did have a little more in common with the Golf. Build quality from this Jetta's Mexican factory isn't quite up to German standards, nor is the design. To be fair, the differences aren't overt, it's just subtle stuff, and some elements more significant than others. On a Golf, for example, you'd get nicely padded door trims. Here, the door cards are fabricated from hard plastic right up to window level. Now, some tinier Golf details are missing too. The way, for example, that on that car, the instrument dial glasses are neatly angled towards each other. Now, you also have to take into account that the Jetta is an older design. So, for example, it doesn't get the kind of large, sophisticated central dash infotainment screen you'd these days find on Volkswagen's evergreen family hatch. Instead, this smaller, more restricted display must suffice. Move from Golf to Jetta ownership, and it's things like these that you'd notice. But then hardly anyone does move from Golf to Jetta ownership. The two cars have, after all, always appealed to quite different buyers. Those who do prefer the four-door body style will probably be quite satisfied with what's on offer here. As you'd expect in this day and age, there are soft-touch plastics and chrome-rimmed dials, along with some quite tasteful Zebrano wood effect trim on this plusher version. And Volkswagen has updated the cabin atmosphere of this revised model by smartening the trim around the centre console, introducing more upmarket fabric designs for the seats and door trims, and adding slick ambient lighting. Now, this is the sort of stuff the Wolfsburg brand thinks European buyers will insist upon, but doesn't bother to add to the budget-orientated American version of this car. That's one reason why US Jetta models are so much cheaper than European spec ones. Perhaps of most importance, though, is the news that no other competitor offers a more comfortable driving position, and that's thanks to reach and height adjustment for the redesigned three-spoke steering wheel, and on most models, height adjustment for the driver's seat. Now, the bottom line here is that there are plusher-feeling rivals, but none that you would rather live with over a 4 or 5 hour journey. Volkswagen has thought through the practicalities too. So there are deep door bins, and you get these twin cup holders behind the gear lever, though the rear one can sometimes get blocked by the sliding armrest on top of the central storage bin. Talking of drinks, the decently sized glove box gets an air conditioning feed that will cool them, a real boon in hot weather. The technological attention to detail is nice too. Let me give you an example. Select reverse or operate the windscreen washers, and the air conditioning system automatically switches itself to recirculating air mode so as to prevent smells from exhaust fumes or windscreen wash from entering the car. Nice. Jetta pricing lies in the £19,000 to £25,000 bracket, and to save you checking, the prices being asked are within a few £100s of what you need to pay for an equivalent 5-door Golf hatchback. Now, they also represent an average saving of around £2,000 over Volkswagen's only slightly larger 8th generation Passat Saloon. Now, within the Jetta range itself, there are really two main engine levels from which to choose. You either go for the lower powered option, which gives you a choice between the 125 PS 1.4 TSI petrol unit or the 110 PS 2-litre TDI diesel. Or there's the higher powered level, either the 150 PS 1.4-litre TSI petrol or the 150 PS 2-litre TDI diesel. In either case, if you want to upgrade yourself from green to black pump motoring, there'll be a model for model premium of between £1,000 and £1,500 to find. So, does the Jetta pricing represent good value? Well, there are various ways of looking at that. You could moan that the US version sells for around half this kind of money, but then you're talking there of a less sophisticated total package. Volkswagen, of course, would rather that you saw this as a BMW 3 Series style compact executive saloon at a saving of around £6,000. But we're not sure that's a realistic way of looking at it either. Probably neither point of view offers a completely balanced perspective. So let's sum up this car for what it is, rather than what we or its makers might like it to be. You'd buy a Jetta if you couldn't quite stretch to a Passat, or if you were looking at a Golf and preferred the idea of a more conservative saloon body style. At least it doesn't have many rivals. The idea of a Focus-sized family hatchback with a boot may play well in other markets around the world, but it doesn't attract much of a following here, and brands like Ford, Vauxhall, Fiat and Renault long ago abandoned this segment. Now that leaves only two direct options. The Mazda 3 Fastback is quite a tempting alternative and would save you around £1,000 in a model-for-model comparison. Unfortunately, though, it offers a boot that's nearly 20% smaller, and that'll be an issue for typical Jetta folk. The other direct alternative is Volvo's comparably priced S60, but that car has an even smaller boot that's nearly 30% more compact than that of this Volkswagen. Now, the only other comparably sized small four-door option that we can think of is the saloon version of the Audi A3. Now, it uses much of the same engine technology as this Jetta, but charges £2,000 to £3,000 more for its premium badge. And again, the boot is smaller. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is a Jetta that you really want, then you're going to need to know just how generous Volkswagen has been with the standard kit. And the answer is that most of what you need is included across the range. So all variants get daytime running lights, heat insulating green tinted glass, an alarm and a hill holder clutch to stop you drifting backwards on uphill junctions. And inside there's air conditioning that also cools the glove box and includes a dust and pollen filter. You get a multi-function trip computer, all-round power windows and electrically adjustable and heated mirrors. Now you also get a folding rear seat backrest and a decent quality 8-speaker DAB stereo system with an iPad-compatible aux-in socket. Most Jetta buyers, though, will want to find the extra £1,300 or so to upgrade themselves into the SE trim level that gives access to the more powerful engine options. I'd want to do that, if only to get the more supportive comfort seats that come with height and lumbar adjustment. Now, at this level, you also get niceties like 16-inch alloy wheels, Bluetooth phone compatibility, a leather-trimmed multifunction steering wheel, cruise control, chrome trim that really lifts the cabin, and a split folding arrangement for the rear seats that also adds a ski hatch. Whether it's worth going further than this and finding nearly £1,000 more for the top GT version with its sport suspension and larger 17-inch alloy wheels is more debatable. We think we'd prefer to spend any remaining budget on a few well-chosen options. Here, for example, this car has been equipped with Volkswagen's effective touchscreen navigation system, along with parking sensors and a convenience pack, which gives you auto headlamps and wipers, power folding mirrors, and an auto-dimming interior mirror. Other options you might want to look at include leather upholstery, a sunroof, front fog lights, and a rear-view parking camera. Safety-wise, there's a 5-star Euro NCAP safety rating achieved as part of testing that saw this car awarded a 94% score for occupant protection. Now, this showing is justified by the fact that all models get ISOFIX rear child seat fastenings, anti-whiplash front head restraints and tyre pressure monitoring. Now, as you'd expect, twin front, side and curtain airbags are also part of the standard tally, plus the usual electronic assistance for braking, traction and stability control to try and ensure that you'll never need to use them. Rear seat side airbags are available at an extra cost. Electronic safety options include high beam assist that automatically dips your headlights for you at night, and a side scan with blind spot monitor system that stops you from dangerously pulling out to overtake in front of another car. Now, there's also a rear traffic alert system that stops you from dangerously reversing out of a parking space into the path of an oncoming car. And the top GT model additionally features a driver alert setup that monitors your reactions for drowsiness and, if necessary, prompts you to stop for a restorative coffee. Across the range, this improved Jetta gets the benefits of Volkswagen's Blue Motion technology program, which includes battery regeneration to reclaim energy that would otherwise be lost under braking, and a start-stop engine system to cut the engine when you don't need it, say stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. Now, the subtle restyling has brought about a 10% improvement in aerodynamic efficiency, and it also helps that all of the direct injection turbocharged engines on offer are pretty modern. Though the same can't be said of all the transmission options. The base 2-litre TDI 110 PS diesel version gets a stick shift with only 5 speeds, while TDI folk in search of auto transmission must be content with an older tech 6-speed DSG automatic gearbox. That's about 10% thirstier and dirtier than the manual alternative. There are no such issues for buyers of the 1.4-litre TSI petrol model. Whether you choose this variant with 125 or 150 PS, you can expect about 53 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and a CO2 return of around 125 grams per kilometre. That's a very respectable showing for a powerful, small-capacity petrol engine, and buyers of the 150 PS version who tick the box for the DSG automatic gearbox can do even better. For reasons best known to Volkswagen, petrol Jettas do get the brand's more modern auto gearbox technology, a 7-speed transmission able to improve the combined cycle fuel showing to 55.4 miles per gallon and the CO2 return to 117 grams per kilometre. It's worth a look, especially if you don't cover too many annual miles. Most Jetta buyers, though, will still continue to look at the TDI options first. The running cost figures are, after all, quite tempting. The entry-level 2-litre TDI 110 PS version delivers 70.6 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 105 grams per kilometre of CO2. Upgrade to the pokier 150 PS version, and thanks to a 6th speed on the manual gearbox, there's hardly any running cost downside. Jetta 2-litre TDI 150 PS buyers can expect 67.3 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 109 grams per kilometre of CO2. Owners, of course, will have to do their part in achieving these figures, which will be a tad more difficult to do in this car than it would be in its hatchback stablemate. Most Golf buyers get a driver profile system with a frugal eco mode, as well as an eco section on the dashboard infotainment screen, and the option of downloading the brand's clever Think Blue Trainer app for efficiency tuition. Now, the Jetta's older technology means that there's none of that sort of thing here, just a gear change indicator on the dash. As for residual values, well, perhaps fortunately for Volkswagen, the used car market doesn't discriminate between German-made VWs and Mexican-built ones, so you should get the usual high resale returns associated with this brand, higher certainly than you'd enjoy from most mainstream marques. The Jetta's relative rarity will help here. The importers reckon on selling no more than about 3,000 on the shores in a good year. That's a fraction of the number of Golfs they'd sell in the same period. Expect this car to retain around 40% of its value after the usual 3-year standard ownership period. Maintenance costs, meanwhile, can be kept down thanks to the way that you can choose a servicing regime to suit your likely use. Time and distance servicing for low mileage users, and a long life program for buyers likely to use their cars much more. What else? Well, there's an unremarkable 3-year 60,000 mile warranty, and insurance groups start at 15E for the base 2-litre TDI 110 PS diesel model, rising to 18E for the 2-litre TD 150 PS version. If you're looking at petrol power, the base 1.4-litre TSI 125 PS model rates at 18E, while the 150 PS 1.4-litre TSI variant is pitched between Group 18 and 20E. So, there you have it, the Jetta rebooted. Volkswagen has kept all the practical elements people always liked about this Mark VI model, while effectively addressing the aspects that weren't quite so good. Things like the down-market cabin and the lack of the kind of high-tech options buyers now expect at this level. The result is a much more competitive product. Whether that'll be enough to get it noticed in our market is another question, of course. As ever, the Jetta's problem is that it sits as a saloon option in a family hatchback segment where buyers tend to want 5 doors. And in image terms, it can't quite stretch its brand equity far enough to challenge in the ritzier compact executive market where 4 doors are a bit more de rigueur. All of this will continue to limit sales here substantially, which is a pity because there's some substance to Volkswagen's argument that this car would actually suit an awful lot of people were they prepared to seriously consider it. After all, for much the same as you'd pay for a Golf, you'd get a car that's 8/10 of what you'd get in the pricier Passat. So, great rear seat room, a huge boot and a classy ride are all provided, as are a range of efficient engines. Now, viewed in this light, you can see why the Americans like it so much, as buyers on our shores probably would were Jetta prices to be as affordable here as they are stateside. Even as it is, you could see why someone might be tempted by one of these, given the way it effectively stacks up to the Mazda 3 Fastback and the Volvo S60 models that are its only real direct rivals. Perhaps family hatchback buyers should put the boot into their deliberations and Jetta zone their preconceptions about saloon car motoring. If they ever do, then Volkswagen is well placed to capitalise.